What's good, everybody? My fault. Dane Martin Jr. back at it again with the informational video, just talking to you guys about everything I've learned over the last over the last 2 months in this Black Entrepreneurship History class. I've actually learned a hell of a lot. Honestly, I really have learned a hell of a lot in this class, unprecedentedly. I should know coming to Morehouse College, I was going to learn a lot about my history, about Black history, and I thought I knew a lot, but after taking this course, and I'm not even done yet, um, I am thrilled to say that this book specifically, right here, by Julia E.K. Walker, The History of Black Business in America, has taught me so much, and that's where I'm going to start today. And talk about how pre-colonial African culture and initiatives shaped the foundations of African American business tradition, and just how today we kind of built on our past, and what we've done in the past has just made us the entrepreneurs we were today. From pre-colonial African markets, that's where it really started in West Central Africa, where they had these African markets, and they would hustle and work their ass off, honestly, to sell different clothing items, different fabrics, different foods, elephant teeth, anything that was worth anything out there. They were merchants. They were hustlers. They worked to get their buck, and they had to do it on their own. Nothing was ever given to them. And then they ended up getting. Then the transatlantic slave trade happened in 1444, and they were actually shipped off by their own kings to the Europeans who sent them here. A big myth that I learned in this class that I didn't know. I thought they were stolen. That's not true. We sold ourselves off into slavery, which is, yes, a shame, but that's us again hustling. That's us again working hard to make money, which is very interesting, and I didn't know. I'm glad I learned that. Next, I'm gonna talk about just provision grounds, and once we got here, yeah, we were slaves, but some slaves could earn more money by selling a surplus amount of commodities that they were able to make on their own provision grounds. This was the first really entrepreneurship in slavery in America, which is very interesting to me because I didn't know provision grounds were a thing. I didn't know that slaves were able to do anything besides go outside, do their job, their labor, not really a job, their labor, their slave labor, and report back to master. You know what I'm saying? That's what I thought slavery was until the Civil War came around. But no, some slaves were able to buy their way out of slavery. Some slaves were able to make money being a slave with their provision grounds, being able to provide surplus commodities and surplus provisions to their masters. Yep. And then once some slaves became free, they would open their own markets and would actually get their own slaves. So black people would own other black people. 5 ways Africans acquired property included purchasing, head right system and land grants, leaseholds, private land grants, and gifts and inheritance. All that is the same thing the white man was doing. Again, I didn't know this. I'm telling you, this book is very deep, and it taught me a lot of stuff this semester. And I really do recommend it. I'm not a big reader, but this is probably the most interesting book I've read in a while. So again, I recommend this big time. So once a lot of these free slaves got out, they had supposedly black jobs, whether that was being a craftsman, an artisan, a chef like Black Sam, a barber, a wig maker, a hairdresser, a shopkeeper, or a merchant. And that's interesting because a lot of those same jobs, especially craftsmen, artisans, and shopkeepers, those were the same jobs they had in West Central Africa. That's where it rooted from. And then those jobs of barbers, wig makers, and hairdressers, those are the same jobs we have today. Those are predominantly black, gone through jobs, if you know what I'm saying. Like, you go to a barber shop, that's black folk. Who's making wigs? Black folk. Hairdressers, that's black folk. So that originated all the way in the 17th century, which is very, very, very interesting to me. And Then we go on to like the Civil War and the post-Civil War times, and again, I learned a lot in the book, The Color of Money. I don't have that on me right now, but The Color of Money and Black Banks and Racial Wealth by Dr. Mersha Baradaran. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. And then The Souls of Black Folk by W.E.B. Du Bois. Both of those readings taught me a lot about post-Civil War times, the Reconstruction and how things went down in the Reconstruction. Whether if that was contraband camps where a whole bunch of slaves were left over after war in these little camps where they had hope, man. They really did have hope. To the Freedmen's Bureau, which was established in 1865 to aid former slaves that were transitioning to freedom from the war. The Freedmen's Bureau was a great idea, and it should have prospered, but because of the situation they were in, it was mainly in the South. The president didn't really mess with black people. He was racist. It didn't really work out. The only thing that really worked out was the education portion of it, which was called the Ninth Crusade. That was a huge part of the Freedmen's Bureau and worked out greatly. 40 acres and a mule. That's one thing I learned, obviously, in history back in school, back in high school and middle school. But it was more of a promise that wasn't kept. We learned in high school and middle school that it was such a big thing, and it was huge for blacks to get this land. But it honestly wasn't as big as I thought it out to be. Other things I learned about in those two readings were about convict labor and how they forced prisoners to work with no income. And they weren't even real prisoners most of the time. A lot of them were arrested for petty crimes, like just standing there, like legit. They would be arrested for just standing there, and they would take them into convict labor just to have them work like a slave. And then we learned about Booker T. Washington and how he spoke in Atlanta with the Atlanta Compromise, and how he worked for he was the president of Tuskegee, and all this different stuff about Booker T. Washington. And we compared W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington, and how they were both right and both had their rights and wrongs, if you know what I'm saying. It's unfair to call one better than the other. It was kind of like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Neither one of them were wrong. They just had different approaches to getting at what they was trying to do. But they were both trying to get to the end goal, which was helping black folk out, whether that was peacefully or whether that was intentionally, going right at their throat, at white people's throat. Then we talked about Jim Crow laws and racial segregation, and how it was just, we've all learned about Jim Crow laws in high school, so it was just talking about how they were enforced, and it was just a belief of separate but equal, and how black people had to work through that until it was over with. Then we talked about the Great Migration and how African Americans sought to get up north because that's where all the opportunity was. That's where the jobs were. And that's how they escaped racism and violence. And then lastly, we really talked about the golden age for black businesses in Durham, North Carolina, and Tulsa, Oklahoma, correct. And how both of those places had Black Wall Street. And again, I didn't know much about these two places. When I think of Oklahoma and North Carolina, I think of very white-filled, very white-populated cities and rural country. And then they're talking about it like it was Black Wall Street. So to learn about the black businesses, the North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance, and all these different businesses down there was very refreshing. All in all, most of this semester has been very enlightful, especially reading this book right here. Again, last time, I fully recommend this book, and I'm not a reader. I usually hate reading, but shoot, I was annotating and everything in this book because I thought it was real. And I learned a lot. I appreciate you guys for watching. Click the link below and subscribe to my channel to learn more about the history of black entrepreneurs in America. Thank you guys again for watching. Peace out.